Welcome to Unfiltered and Unstoppable with Romesburg. Real strategies for real advisors, a podcast that dives into what it takes to scale a thriving financial practice. Each week, we'll discuss actionable strategies, tools, and insights to keep you ahead in today's financial landscape. From innovative products and powerful marketing tactics, you'll get unfiltered truth and unstoppable strategies. Let's get started by building your unstoppable financial practice today.
All right. Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered and Unstoppable. This is the podcast that provides real strategies for real advisors. And I am super pumped for my guest today, Mr. Brad Malm. And just to make it very clear, Brad Malm has been one of my closest buddies for many, many years, almost 20 years. And our background and our true passion is actually barbecue, like actually smoking meat. And for years, I've tried to convince Brad that we need to start our own podcast, our own sauces, and our own rubs. I haven't been able to convince him to do it. So today I tricked him. I told him, hey, today we're going to do a podcast about scaling, but it's going to be about barbecue. Cool, Brad?
I love it. I love it. I've got 4 briskets and 4 butts in the fridge right now that I've got to cook for Ashton's team dinner tomorrow. So
let's go, man.
yes,
Let's
yes.
go. I love it. So for those that don't know, I'm your host, Rob Romesburg, and like I said, today we're going to be tackling a topic that every independent advisor really wrestles with at some point. How do you scale your business? But more importantly, how do you scale your business without losing control of your time, losing control of your team, losing control of your sanity? Like I've seen people get really successful really fast, and oh my God, burnout would be an understatement. So the truth is, and what we're going to go through today is that growth isn't always about freedom. In fact, if you're not built on the right structure, growth actually is going to create more chaos, much more chaos. And that's really why today's conversation matters. So by the end of this episode today, you're going to know the number one hire that frees up your time as the advisor. And that's the most important piece, in my humble opinion, what we're going to cover today. And then also the mindset shift, rather, that separates those who scale smart from those who stall. And so, as I already mentioned, joining me today is Mr. Brad Malm. Brad is the vice president of agency development within our tactical coaching team. He spends every single day working side by side with successful advisors all across the country to help them break through ceilings, build the right systems, and once again, to grow smarter, not just bigger. So once again, Brad, thanks so much, man, for joining us today. If you don't mind, just give us a brief little breakdown of your background, how you found your way into coaching advisors, specifically into scalable practices.
Sure, happy to. Before that though, that intro you made me sound pretty important. So if you could maybe slide some of that in there to Jamie every now and again, I would
Yeah,
appreciate that.
without a doubt.
But I started my career in this industry, right? Out of college, I joined the military. Wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. Found a job with Chuck and Tammy. Worked in annuity sales for quite a while, a few years, and then realized I wanted to get into HR and management. And Tammy, being Tammy, she laid out here's the path to get into HR and management. When I accomplished those things, got the MBA, got the HR certifications, she and Chuck had started their own business, so much smaller, and didn't need somebody in those roles, and I knew that. But Tammy being Tammy, she kind of kicked me out of the nest, found me my first job in HR. I spent 10 years at a health system where I started in HR. Finished the last few years of my career at the health system, managing family practices, so family doctors. I had like 30 doctors, 300 and some support staff, several different locations. looking at it now, thinking back, it's very interesting how a family practice doc, how their office mirrors,
Exactly.
a bit of what an advisor's does. So did that for a couple of years. Then Tammy called me back probably 10 years ago and said, "Hey, we're getting big. I need to be more strategic. Nikki needs to be more strategic. We need somebody to oversee corporate HR." So I did that. Um, Having the background that I had, working with advisors, working in the health system and some of those unique skill sets that I was able to develop, uh, I started working more and more with advisors. And as our advisors continue to grow, they run into some of the same issues we did as we built Gradient. So it just kind of morphed into that. Last couple of years, I've been doing a lot more on the M&A side. So yeah, that's a little bit about who I am there from the Gradient standpoint. I think another thing that really helps when it does come to working with advisors and business owners is, Jamie and I own two businesses ourselves. We have a real estate investment company that I oversee, and then Jamie, has the RA and insurance firm, and using the practices that we've learned over the years that Chuck and Tammy have developed, it's allowed us to maintain our jobs at Gradient, put the people in place to continue to run and grow those businesses. So that's been a blessing too.
Love it, man. That was a very clear picture. Definitely gives me a much better understanding and a better view of why our advisors appreciate working with you and your team so much, man. You've got such a wide uh, breadth and background of really helping an advisory practice in so many different realms. So that really leads me to my first question here. So when you are working with advisors across the country, what would you say is the single biggest misconception that they have, the advisor has, about scaling a practice? What would you say the biggest thing is?
Um, Misconception.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know, we're we're growing our business, so it's not rocket science, right? To me, it comes down to kind of process science. It's process of people. I think those are the biggest misses for advisors. Um, Having repeatable processes are vital if you want to grow a business with other
Mhm.
people. You can be a great advisor and you can do all the things right, but if you don't have repeatable processes for other people, then that's where I think the business starts to falter a bit. There's only, I don't care how good you are, there's only so many appointments you can run in a day. There's only so much you can do. So at some point, you're going to have to multiply yourself, and before you go to multiply yourself or multiply somebody else in the office, we have to make sure we've got those repeatable processes. So I think that's probably the biggest miss. Like, I'm a good advisor. My marketing's working well. I'm running into a good number of prospects, and I can grow, and that's going to work for a while. But as we look at really, turning the operation into a real business, I think that's the biggest miss. We don't have those repeatable processes.
So the misconception is I'm in a mess as an advisor, and oh my God, the business is owning me. I'm just going to hire myself out of this mess.
Yeah.
You could hire, but if you don't have those systems and processes in place, guess what? Your mess is gonna get bigger and uglier and nastier. Guaranteed.
100%. 100%. And you mentioned something too early about a mindset shift. We have several advisors who are, if we're going to say success, measure success by production. We've got several advisors that are one person shop that are extremely successful, right? But if you're going to scale that thing and multiply, uh, you've got to have more people. And the thing you said earlier was that shift in mindset. It really does have to be a shift in mindset that not only now am I just going to focus on the production and kind of stay in my bubble. I've got to start looking at these other areas and what is important to me. One, I got to have those things I enjoy, that fill my bucket. And if that's marketing, then great, you keep a piece of marketing. But at the end of the day, if you're good at sales, you're good at closing business, then we want you doing that for the business sake with the bulk of your time.
Yeah, 100%. Um, so every advisor hits a ceiling at some point. What are the red flags that you see or that you've seen that you could tell, like, oh my gosh, you guys are getting ready to outgrow your structure. You're
Sure.
getting ready to hit that ceiling.
I think when we talk about a ceiling, we say we're hitting a ceiling, so I'm assuming that means we're having success, and that's a good thing. So I think when you approach that ceiling, whatever that ceiling is for you, um, we look at two things. Are we happy with production, and is production where we want it to be for that ceiling, or are we happy with our work-life balance and the time that we have? So I think first it's very important that we identify what those are. I think it's important that we're having, regularly structured owner meetings. And if we're looking and having the productive owners meetings, we're talking about that. We're talking about uh, production. We're talking about workload. We're talking about, errors. Are we seeing attrition? I mean, those are the big red flags. If all of a sudden we're seeing more and more errors within our body of work or our staff's body of work, or even worse, we're starting to see attrition. Those would be the major flags. So I think a remedy to that is, again, having those owner meetings, whether they're talking with you as the marketer, if they have no one else, or they have a spouse or somebody else in the business that they can talk to, again, on a monthly basis. And we want it to be productive. We want to look at all aspects of the business so that we can try to avoid any of those red flags.
Yeah, yeah, that's great stuff, man. Can you share a story possibly of an advisor that thought they were scaling, but just turns out they were just running faster on the treadmill?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And one of the things you mentioned earlier too was adding people. Oftentimes we'll hear, "Hey, we need to hire a receptionist. We need to hire a care bearer. We need an associate advisor. We need all of these things."
Right.
And then we hire a care bearer. We bring them in and we say, "Okay, go do care bear things." Well, they don't know what care bear things are. Um, again, back to being very intentional with our time and training. But we had an advisor, and it's been a couple years back now, that was actually considering making some changes, even potentially changing, some major marketing things, looking at their employees and how do we hire new employees. We had to take a step back, and but before we scrapped anything marketing wise, because the advisor was like, we're gonna stop this, we're gonna go all in over here. So, well, let's look at what we're doing and how well is it working. So took a step back, looked at the marketing, and thought, and was able to see, oh, these are actually very profitable, means for marketing. So continued those, still went another direction on other marketing, but at a much more cautious, slower pace, because the other things we were doing were working. The big problem for his business was he was just throwing people at problems.
Hmm.
Um, and it just didn't work. The big thing is, if you're wanting to grow a business, in my opinion, two things: you've got to have repeatable processes for your staff, and you've got to surround yourself with A players. So
Yeah.
oftentimes we'll have less than A players. You've got that. Oh, that's Susie, and she's kind of an Eeyore, but we love Susie, so we just deal with that. And in a bigger company that can work. You can have a couple Eeyores or a couple Susies, but if we're talking, we've got an office of 5, 10, 15 people. you know, if we have a couple C players, that really brings the average down. So I think it's very important, as we look at, solutions for that. In a lot of ways, it's having the right people along with those processes.
So is that why you kicked me off the barbecue team? I was the C
Oh,
player. Is that what happened?
you were the fun player. You brought the fun to the game. We
uh,
may not have been the best team out there, but we did have the most fun, and I would say you were the chief fun officer. That's for
I
sure.
still swear to this day, if we had a reality show, it would have been
Oh,
much bigger than Duck Dynasty.
we would have been
Swear,
big,
swear.
or we'd have been canceled early. I don't know, one
Oh,
of the two.
canceled early for sure. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of times that we think growth for some reason also equates to freedom. And as I said earlier, that if the growth is not respected with discipline, great discipline, and organization, it will definitely create more chaos. So I think you really hit the nail on the head there, talking about hiring without the proper systems and processes, but maybe a little different silo there. Where else could that create an issue, or where do you see it happen more often?
Um, I think we see it a lot. This type of thing comes up when I'm doing an office visit, and I frequently go back to something I remember as a kid. It's weird that I remember it, but I do. Went to a construction convention. My grandpa had he had a construction company, did dirt construction here in central Kansas, and this was in big convention in California. He was on some board and he was on a panel, and they said something to the effect of what's your goal? What do you want? Well, the guy that went before my grandfather said, I want to be the biggest contractor in the Midwest. And it got to my grandpa and he just kind of laughed. He said, well, he can be the biggest. I just want to be the richest.
Love it.
And so I think, the old saying, more money, more problems, more people.
Mhm.
I mean, people are the most unpredictable animals on the planet. So
Yeah.
anytime you add people into your mix, you never know what's going to happen. So I think, again, very important that we've got those right processes in place um, for two reasons. One, it gives us something to hold the employee accountable to, but employees, new or old, we all want to do a good job, right? So if we have good processes, good job descriptions in place, that's going to guide us to hopefully be successful. So I think, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think the processes and the people, those are uh, the big ticket items if you want to grow. I do think, we all, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but I think most of us, we would love to be able to grow our business to the point to where, that utopia, it can operate independent of me. I don't have to be there all the time. I don't,
Yeah.
Chuck and Tammy are the prime examples. I mean, they're still heavily involved in the business, but they don't have to be. They've
Right.
done such a good job of finding the right people that treat the business like it's their own, and I think that's a big attribute to the success we've had over the years.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's say that I'm an advisor listening right now, and as we record this today, it's October 1st. It's the fourth quarter, and I'm like, I, I know that I can double in 2026, and however, I also know that I'm maxed out on time. What's my first move? And let's not say hire. Let's not say hire a new person. But
Sure.
what's my first move?
Developing those repeatable processes, making making sure you've got the repeatable process from an operations standpoint. But then the other thing is are you making the income? Do if we step back and we look at your practice. I remember when I first started doing this, spent a lot of time with an advisor that wanted to hire an assistant, and finally, I'm looking at the production, and the production's really not there that warrants an assistant. So finally, then just said, where are you at with income? What's coming in is maybe there's money I don't know about. So when we looked at the business, and he was the sole income provider for his family, and we looked at, he's making whatever it was at the time. But a good portion of what he was making was going to be eaten up by hiring an assistant. It's like you're not there. So I think that's a big piece, right? We've got to have the repeatable processes, and we've got to have the income to do it. And I think um, monitoring the business, having those monthly owners meetings, gives us an opportunity to look at where we are and where
Yeah,
we need to go.
100%. There's obviously a huge difference between being busy and being scalable.
Sure.
And what I have seen from my experience, so many of the advisors that get stuck in that busy trap, it's because simply they have sold themselves on believing that no one could do it better. Meaning, I have to do this. I can't allow someone else handle this. So the delegation part of it, right? So I mean, even if I hired someone, guess what? I'm just going to keep doing it on my own, and that is a huge cost. Not only did I hire someone, and I'm not even giving them this busy work, but I'm keeping it on myself, and that's to me, I see that as the first red flag of unsustainable growth, right there. The advisor themselves is working harder and then definitely enjoying it less. I've heard over the years from those advisors that aren't accepting the delegation, meaning they aren't confident enough in that staff to delegate, that I used to love my job and now I hate it. Well,
Yep.
you've quadrupled your problems
Yep.
by doing this. And so, like we've already said, growth without systems doesn't create freedom, it creates firefighting, right? And to yourself, if you're that advisor out there, You might be thinking, busy looks like growth, but guess what? Busy's not scalable, right?
Right. We see it a lot, and again, what I love about the advisors that I get to work with is one, they're either really successful, or two, they really want to be successful and they want to be coachable. Um, I talked earlier about working in the health system. What would you guess? What would you guess a busy, I don't want busy, a productive? Because again, the doctors that worked for my family practice, they weren't independent, so they worked for an employer. What would you guess though they saw in a day? Some of my top producing physicians, how many people do you think they saw in a day?
So, how many
How many
actual
patients?
patients did they see in a day?
Yeah.
So, is their average day 8 hours? I don't even know.
Yeah, I would say 8 to 9.
8 to 9 hours?
Yeah.
I don't know. 20?
Yeah. The busiest producers I had saw upwards of 40 plus patients a day on average, right? And so you talk about us being busy, and one is definitely, yes, we don't want to let things go, but a little bit too, we become victims of our freedom.
Hmm.
We go into this business because we want to have control over our income, and we want to have
Right.
control over our schedule. So I
Right.
think sometimes we fall victim there. If you want to be that advisor equivalent to that doctor that sees 40 a day, you've got to schedule everything. You've got to schedule your planning time. You've got to schedule your prospecting time, your client review time, your personal time. Like it's got to be pretty rich if you want to be, to me, one of those top tier type people. And if you say, you know what, I want to be somewhere in the middle. I don't want to work, crazy. I don't want to work 10, 12 hours a day. But you still need to have that structure to be productive. Again, there's differences in what a doctor does and what an advisor does, but when we're talking about they see 40 in a day, like there's no room for error in their processes. It's just boom, 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 everything's clicking. So yeah, when it's interesting because a lot of the offices we do go into, they're wanting to grow. It's a big problem is the way the advisor structures their day
Yeah.
and the
Uh,
resources they use, right? Like I'm passionate about doing the planning myself versus having somebody else take a piece of it or some of it or all of it and putting the plan together that I can then review and present. They want to take it from A to Z, and that's fine, but you just have to realize that it takes time.
yeah. That's so a few weeks ago, I had a podcast with Nikki, and we went through her surge planning.
Yeah.
And everything that you just mentioned there about the 40 patients a day, that's surge planning. That's exactly what that is. So for anyone that's listening, you're trying to figure out what is surge planning. Check out the previous podcast that I had with Nikki Foley, specifically focused on surge planning. I mean, we're talking about doubling business and making sure I don't lose my sanity. To me, that's one of the first things that I would focus on is making sure that not only my systems and processes are in order, but is my calendar in order? Do,
If
do I know exactly what's happening on Monday and exactly what's happening on Tuesday? And is that repeatable each and every single week?
my favorite offices are the ones that I talk to the advisor and they're like, yeah, I'll ask, what's your schedule like? Well, I'll come in at 9 on
Right.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I'm usually done by 3, but they're still producing at great volumes. Monday's their plan day, and they take Friday off. And it's
Yeah.
because we talk, you mentioned Nikki. I mean, she's the queen of structure.
Oh,
Jeff
yeah.
and Nikki, there's a reason that they were able to elevate their business to where it is today. I mean, in a relative, take some to get there 40 years and they don't even hit the levels Nikki and Jeff have hit in, a short period of time. I mean, um, they are structure and process. They're the
Mhm.
definition. Yeah.
Without a doubt. Let's talk about maybe a small but powerful tweak in regards to client communications. Like, have you seen any sort of tweaks or changes out there that have made a huge impact on scalability in regards to client communications?
I think from the marketing side of things, I mean, we're doing a lot more to reach clients, to touch them more frequent. I think we're seeing other means being used as long as it's compliant, right? But
Mhm.
reaching out via text and different videos and video messages, things of that nature. So yeah, I think we've seen, definitely an uptick of that. And I think it's also, with the use of technology and those means, we're seeing where advisors, where they used to have a client base in such a small geographical area, now we're seeing advisors work with people, all over the country. So
Yeah.
definitely seeing some growth in that area.
Okay. So what I'm hearing so far is that scalability is a discipline, not a software purchase. Meaning, you have to be very disciplined and intentional with your approach in regard to scaling your business, not just expecting that, oh, I added this and now it happens immediately. Right?
Yeah, to think you're going to grab the latest and greatest CRM, right? All of them have pluses, all of them have minuses, all
Sure.
of them have issues. Um, but yes, it's if you're going to be successful, scale a business. To me, it's all about the people and the processes. Technology can definitely help, and you want to utilize it and take full advantage of it. But it's still going to come down to the head of the firm on down being intentional about what we're doing.
Hmm. Yeah.
You think back to the early days of when we started Gradient in the garage. We didn't have a lot of the things that we talk to advisors, and we got to have these job descriptions in place in these processes. Definitely they came, but again, Chuck and Tammy found the right people that were all willing to row in the right direction at the right pay. I mean, it was just a well-oiled machine. Everybody knew. Um, Once Gradient starts to grow, and you start to bring outside people in, which every growing business is going to have to do. Again, I go back to the importance of being intentional with our processes and
Hmm.
people.
Yeah. You're exactly right. Let's jump into some myths and see about busting out some myths or and talking about mistakes. So there's a lot of myths out there about growth in particular, and we've already talked about it. Thinking more clients always equals more profit. So is there another
More
myth out
clients equal more profit or problem.
there? That's about it. Yeah, like you said earlier, more money, more problems.
Right, right.
So is there a myth out there that you would like to bust once and for all?
Um, Depends where you're at in your business, right?
Mhm.
If I'm in the infancy stages of my business, I'm going to take just about everybody, right? I need the production. Um, but if I'm a $2 million producer and I need to grow to 4 million, you know I don't know that there's a whole lot of difference, but I do think what's nice to see is those people who they're looking to grow their business, from 7 to 14. You've got to be intentional about who you're working with and where you're spending your time. um, I think, on the same vein of that, like, you bring on a new client, hopefully you're bringing on somebody who's going to be an advocate for the firm versus, we all know there's some of those people out there that they're not happy unless they have something to be unhappy about, and you don't want that thing that they're not happy about being your firm. So, yes, I do think, make sure you find people that are the right fit for your
Mhm.
business.
Yeah, 100%. So uh, so far we've hit on the biggest challenges, the biggest mistakes when we see advisors scale. So let's shift our gears a little bit here into what's actually working, the strategies that are actually protecting growth. And so, if I'm an advisor listening right now, I'm feeling overwhelmed. What would you say is one small step that they could take today or this week to start scaling smarter or taking back control of your business?
Um, I'm going to go back to like the basics that Tammy preached about for years, and um, it has to start here, right? Like, I could jump in and say, again, we need the structured meetings and talk about the things that need to happen in maybe a weekly employee meeting, which are very important. But I think, again, if I'm really looking to start to grow this business, I've got to make sure I've got the employment agreements, the non-solicitations, the job descriptions, like those foundational tools. If you don't have those in place before you go do anything else, those have to be your focus. There's not a month that that goes by that I'm not working with somebody on a situation where a partnership went bad, or we lost our our lead advisor, and he or she's going to start competing against us, and we didn't have any of these things set up. So uh, uh, there's a lot of things, but having your foundation protected and in place, I think, is key for the growth of a business.
Man, you hit kind of a sore subject there. So I recently brought on a couple of advisors, and they were best friends
Yeah,
before they even got in the business together. And there was a situation that happened, unfortunately, after they came on board, had nothing to do with us, and that business relationship failed immediately. And one of the advisors started to reach in and start to contact the other advisors' clients, and started taking that AUM. And that was specifically allowed because those agreements weren't in place.
yeah.
Yes, there was a breakdown in the relationship, and that's what happened. But it was allowed because there were not agreements in place. And so I get it, man. Like, we're best friends for 30 years, and we're gonna get in this, and everything's gonna be hunky dory. But
But then all the more reason to have those things in place, because I love
yeah,
and care about you, Rob. When the day comes and we're on a beach with our barbecue shack, we will have an agreement in place that protects you and your family and me
yeah,
and mine, right?
yeah. Let's go. And that kind of same thing, but not. The next thing that you need to do is make sure that you are documenting what it is you should be doing, and documenting the things that you should not be doing. Meaning, have a T chart listed out, and all of the revenue generating items. That's for you, the advisor, to handle. The non revenue generating items. That's for everyone else on your team to handle. And
And
and have the
go ahead.
courage, and the discipline to trust your team with those things. Don't care about them, and what I mean by that is trust them, let them handle it, not don't care about them. I'm just saying that you've gotta trust your team, and you just gotta let it go. That way you could focus on revenue generating items, and that's really what we try to do all day, every day with our tactical coaching team. Sorry, Brad, what were you gonna say?
No, no, that I think you're spot on. And I think too, you outline those things, but I think even more importantly, uh, we have a weekly meeting, right? In our world, in our business, we should have a weekly meeting with all players around the table. Um, the problem with the weekly meetings now, the team meetings, I feel like too often the advisor uses that as an opportunity to complain about things, or, we can dovetail off on things because we don't have great structure. I really want to see those weekly meetings be set and structured in a way that the advisor is not saying a lot. Like, you get to ask
100%.
questions. The only thing you can do is ask questions. But my new business person is going to update on last week's new business, what's pending, what's coming in this week, what troubles we're having. My marketing person's telling me about the marketing budget, the marketing campaign results from the prior marketing efforts, what we have coming. My sales teams talking about what they have on the hook, what things they're having issues with. I mean, and I feel like by having those meetings, one, you talked about the accountability things that are put in place. Well, this is an opportunity weekly where we get to be, you know, adults. We get to have honest conversations about where everything's at, and talk about how we get it, get it to done.
I love
Uh,
that. That's exactly. So some of the top advisory firms that I work with, it's not the advisor making that T chart. It is the office manager making the
mhm,
T chart, and making sure that the advisor only has on his plate the revenue generating items. Meaning, you are allowing the office manager to have that power to make sure everyone else in the office takes the non generating revenue items. And
100%.
so what I would say, if I'm an advisor listening right now, here's your challenge this week. Write down everything that you do that doesn't require your license. That is a non-generating revenue item. And make sure you are delegating delegating those items immediately. And to me, that's the first step to scaling smart. Get all of that off your desk, and let someone else that has the passion for it. That's why you hired them. Let them handle it. Man, we're getting ready to wrap up already. I can't believe how fast these things go. So let me ask you a closing question here. When you look at the future of independent advisors, what would you say excites you the most about opportunities to being able to scale smart?
Mm, good question. Um, I think what excites me most for people in this business now is opportunity. I think we're as far as our world, right? It's an aging demographic. There's going to be, for those of you who I've got, 5, 10 years left in this business, I think you're going to see just a lot of opportunity. And it's like anything, right? We can hit bad times, like we hit COVID and oh no, what are we going to do? We had some advisors that COVID was their best years ever, right? So
100%.
so I really think it's that mindset, where you want to take the business, what you want to do. But I think opportunities out there. I think we've got again an aging demographic in our industry, and be good at what you do. And if you're good at what you do, success is going to come.
Yeah, that man, you hit the nail right on the head there. And actually, I've even heard that from the advisory side. And what I mean by that is, we had a great training the other morning with one of our top advisors, very successful firm, and fortunate enough to where was able to pause on all marketing for a while, specifically seminars. And now the firm is firing them back up to make sure that they are backfilling with younger clients because they've been in the business so long. Their upper end clients are of the older demographic, and they took a responsible look at their business and said, "Man, in about 5 years, these clients might not be around anymore. We need to make sure that we're backfilling here." So, same idea, only different there. And man, I just really appreciate you taking the time on hopping on here today. Anything that you'd like to leave us with before I wrap us up here?
I would say if something's touched a nerve, or we've said something during the call that you feel, if I had a little more help there, or if I had a little more knowledge on, whatever it may be, structure in the office, structuring team meetings, weekly team meetings, owner meetings, marketing meetings, finance meetings, all of those things are things as a business owner we need to be in tune with. So many of our advisors, um, they know the bank account's going up, so things have to be going good. Taking advantage of Finance University, the services that we have, and uh, people that we have at Gradient that can help you, take some of that heavy lifting off your plate. I think that's a big thing with the tactical coaching team. When Chuck and Tammy looked at, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to position the tactical coaching team? A lot of it was structured around their experiences as they grew their firm, and they knew if I'm spending time with accounting and I'm spending time with HR and technology and compliance and all of these things, I'm not growing my business. So I would say, parting thing, if any of those things are taking your time, taking your staff's time, reach out to the tactical coaching team. Let us see how we can do some heavy lifting for you.
I love it, man. So, Brad, you've really filled this whole thing up with some great insight, and I'm certain that the advisors that are listening today can already see the difference between chasing growth and scaling smart. And to every advisor out there tuning in, I want to make sure to make this clear. You don't hear this enough, so let me say it clearly. Thank you, thank you for serving your clients. Thank you for serving your communities. Thank you for doing the hard work that so often goes unnoticed. The impact that you're making out there is bigger than any balance sheet, and it matters. And we know this is not easy. It's not an easy business. Let us help. Let the tactical coaching team help. Let us take that stress off your plate. Let us help you love this business again. In turn, that allows you to love your communities even more. So let us dive in and do that. That's what we're all about here. So specifically the podcast, Unfiltered and Unstoppable. Once again, real conversations to help you grow your practice in your life without compromise. And so, as always, make sure you subscribe. Share this episode with any advisor that you think this might help. Anyone that you think might need this. And stay tuned. We've got more unfiltered conversations coming your way soon. And thanks for listening. And until next time, stay disciplined, stay focused, and keep moving forward. Thanks again, Brad.
Thanks, Rob.